catches me unawares. There we go. We are live. Usually it takes a couple of seconds for me to see that little red thing in the corner. Hello, everybody. My name's Claire. I am the CEO. I've just been telling the boys I'm the CEO of Kennedy Street Charity and founder of our project, which we set up. So I'll give you a little bit of an intro to who we are, just in case you don't know. So Kennedy Street are a charity that's set up in Brighton, and we're a peer-led recovery charity set up and established by people in active recovery from addiction for anybody and everybody who has their hand up for recovery from addiction. So we support individuals, families and businesses to better understand recovery and the benefits that recovery brings to everybody. So we're really excited. We've just received charitable status a week before lockdown, which was really good, because as soon as lockdown happened, our phones went from 5 inquiries a week to 20 inquiries a day. So yeah, I know. I'll tell you, talk about fly by the seat of your pants, boys. It was unbelievable, because everything's shut. Every other service shut. It was like nobody knew where to go, what to do, how to get help. So thankfully we were able to get online literally overnight, and that was where these talks came from, really, just to reach more people, because I didn't have enough arms and legs to answer phone calls. So it was like, oh my gosh, I need help.
I'd love to see you answer a phone call with your leg.
Yeah, multi-talented. You should know me by now. So that's me anyway. That's me. And then I want to introduce you to these two beauties, who are Adam and Andy. Look at that, that's his beauty face. Who are really lovely friends of ours, and I like to call them community connectors, and community connections for us as well as a project, because the project that they run is called Ambigo, and it's a really fabulous project that helps a lot of people. I've known Adam for years. We were both fortunate way back to have received a little bit of funding from an amazing charity who helped us a lot, didn't it, Adam, when we were babies?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but we wouldn't have been here without them.
Yes. Do they still exist, Upstream Ideas?
No, unfortunately
my tea
not.
lady's just arrived.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, hello.
Could they want a cup of tea too, please?
Is there one for us? Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'll have a bourbon biscuit with mine.
Oh. Thank you.
It's happening everywhere.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
your tea lady's brilliant.
I know, she's good, isn't she? She's very efficient. So do they still exist, Adam, Upstream Ideas?
I don't think so, no. I hear there are other kind of ideas brewing around what they might be able to offer in the future, but as far as I'm aware, there's nothing going on at the moment. Yeah,
because they were critical for me, because I didn't have a clue, to be honest, what I was doing or how I could sort of help, continue to offer help. So they were really, really so kind and generous. So what I'm going to do, rather than talk about Upstream Ideas, I'm going to give you an opportunity, when I can say the right word, to introduce yourselves individually. And if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of a background to Ambigo as well, that'd be really fabulous. So over to you, Adam. We'll start with Adam first, who is the founder and also executive director, may I say?
Yeah. Okay, so a personal introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm Adam. And I started Ambigo around, it's getting closer to 4 years ago. So around 3.5 years ago. And it was because I used to be a sports commentator. I was very lucky. I got to do lots of shouting about people hitting and kicking balls around the world, which was great. But I decided I wanted to do something that was actually going to help people. So I ummed and ahed for a long while. And what I knew I wanted to do was to help people achieve their ambitions, because back in 2014, I achieved a big ambition for myself, which was ridiculous, which was to break a world record for the longest ever squash marathon, as in playing squash, not growing the vegetable. And so I did that, and it took 12 months to do it or more. Yeah, just a bit more. And it was agonizing and torturous. But the feeling of achievement and relief and all of those things at the end of it was immense. And I knew that I wanted to help other people achieve things in their life. And for a while I was going, oh, I just want to help everybody achieve their ambitions, and realized I don't have the expertise to do that. So what I realized was that what I needed to do was provide the platform so that people could come together and find each other if they could help each other. So back in 2015, I put on a little event, and I just went on Facebook and said, we're going to be at this cafe, Redwood Cafe, which is no longer there, on Trafalgar Street in Brighton, and said, come along if you've got some kind of idea or ambition that you'd like support with. And 32 people turned up just from that, which was amazing. I didn't know any of them. And they came along, and the room was buzzing, and everybody was sharing their goals and ambitions on paper and what they needed help with. And people loved it. And everybody walked away smiling and with new friends and new connections to help them closer to what it was they wanted to do. And I thought, okay, yeah, I need to do this. So I worked for 1 year more in my old career to save up the money so I could launch this as a proper business, as a non-profit. And yeah, so at the back end of 2016, ended my career, and then went, okay, now what? And it was just me on my own, like you were saying, not having a clue what I was doing. So luckily it was connected to Upstream Ideas, and then Andy came along and rescued me, and to a certain extent, because he was able to come and bring along many years of wisdom and expertise to help us set up as, you know, a functioning organization with a plan. And so, yeah, we've done, oh, Andy can probably give us the exact figures in a minute, but over 70 activities I think we've done now across the last few years. And so what it's all about is people from different backgrounds coming together at physical events before lockdown, and they share with each other a goal, an idea, or an ambition they have. And it can be absolutely anything. So sometimes we get people saying, I want to have a better social life. I want to be more self-confident. I want to be more courageous. Some people say they want to develop a skill, like in our event on Friday, we had somebody saying, I want to learn how to do kick-ups better, you know, like football kick-ups. And then some people want to change the world. And all of those things are valid. And we say, whatever you want to do, grand or modest, it's valid. So people come along, and they normally don't know anybody else in the room. And they just have a little chat, first of all, with two other people that they don't know. And they each take it in turns, having the same amount of time to be heard about what it is they want to do. And they also share why it's important to them and what would help them achieve it. Then they get that down on paper, and I've prepped Andy to be able to show us a little ambition calling card, which he'll do any second now, hopefully.
Oh, it's my cue. I almost missed it.
So there's a little calling card, as we call them. So people write down what their ambition is in that top box and what they need help with in the bottom box. And then they stick it up on a washing line. Then people walk around the room reading about what everybody wants to do, being inspired. And then as soon as you can offer some kind of information, contact, advice, or any other kind of support you think might be helpful to that person, you jot it down on a Post-it note and you stick it on their ambition sheet. And of course, you have a chat with them if you're there. So everybody walks away having been helped closer to what it is they wanted to do. And often more importantly is that they're suddenly getting this boost of confidence, because they're having all these people saying, we hear you say what you want to do, we believe you can do it, and here's how. So we often get a lot of people coming who have never articulated what it is they want to do before, but they leave going, wow, now I believe this thing is actually real. I've put it out there to the universe, and now it's set the ball rolling, and they've gone on to achieve what they wanted to do. Or sometimes they've not. Sometimes they've realized, actually, having learned more about it from other people, actually it's not right for them. And so they've moved on to something else, which is great too. You know, that's progress. So yeah, that's where we're up to. And then right now, to bring us up to the present day, we're doing online events because we can't do ones in person because of lockdown. So every Friday, we're doing events in partnership with some wonderful organizations. Like we did one with Hummingbird Project, a refugee charity, on Monday. And Claire's doing that face because on Friday we're doing one with Kennedy Street, which we're very excited about. So it's an opportunity for people who volunteer for Kennedy Street and others to come along and share what their goals, ideas and ambitions are. And we'll be hoping that you'll be there to just comment on Facebook or on YouTube or wherever you watch it, just to say, oh, I know somebody who could help, or anything else you think could be supportive for that person. So yeah, hope that describes what we do.
Amazing. Amazing. Absolutely. I mean, we can go into a little bit more detail in a bit after the lovely Andy has given us his introduction, of course. Over to you, Andy.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be described as lovely. It's quite rare for me to even feel remotely lovely, certainly at any time during the day, let alone just after lunch or just before lunch, in fact. Okay, what would you like to know? I'll tell you a little bit about how I met Adam. I happen to be connected to a local radio program back then, supporting and promoting activists in the community, those people who were just doing things and so on. A lot of fun. And we met on one of our shows, and I was very, very impressed by what he does. And my background at the time, I'd spent almost 10 years doing a lot of support work for people doing unpaid caring. I just gently been moving into a kind of community development role, helping people kind of become empowered and in charge of their own communities. And something that really struck me as very powerful in what Adam was doing was just how much support and how much power he was helping people access in their own lives with their own people around them. And also, brilliantly, the new friendships that were emerging as people were spending these times. And as I think about it, there's something really wonderful about what is in a friend. And really, there's a couple of really very powerful things there. Someone that you can share something really personal with, and some way of connecting that goes beyond the surface. And what Adam was doing, what he was offering, struck me as a way of fast tracking, getting to know somebody around what they were interested in, so that we didn't see them as what they looked like, from the outside. It was a way of sort of getting past the prejudgment, some people call it prejudice, prejudgments of people, and making new friends. So, one of the things that we really love from our live events are the little sparks of new friendships that start to emerge. And often we'll be saying, if you want to get involved in someone else's dream or ambition and so on, say so, we'll make the connection. Or if you're happy to just say a kind of a supportive thing about recognizing the person, that too is brilliant. So the thing that sort of I met Adam April or May 2017, something like that. Just straight off, just after Ambigo became incorporated, and went all the legal stuff and everything. And yeah, I'm happy to have been able to help do a little of the background work, put some of the structures together, and also been privileged to be able to help kind of form up some of the ways that we're doing things. Ambigo, really, it's unusual for you to see me and Adam talking at you. That's not the heart of Ambigo. Ambigo is more about listening. And now that we're in lockdown, it's an uncomfortable feeling for us to be broadcasting at you. Normally, when you encounter us, you don't really see much of us at all. You see Adam's friendly face. He welcomes you in. He somehow manages to put people at their ease because he sees you, because he welcomes you. And you feel his sincerity. It's a lovely thing to experience. I hope I'm not embarrassing you, Adam.
Okay.
And then we get you into a space where you can basically feel safer and safer to explore that beginning wish or big wish. Or, I mean, one of the people who came in, all she wanted was to be just a little bit more confident in herself. I actually was a little bit unsure whether we would be able to help, but the comments people made, they were salient, they were supportive, they were kind, they were really useful. And you could see her, it was like she was walking taller, maybe 2 inches taller at the end of the event, being more connected with supportive people around her. And that's what I love about the whole Ambigo experience. Be it, I want to change the world, I want to write a book, I just like to be a little bit safer in my own life. All these things are very legitimate ambitions, which is why I've stayed with Ambigo since then. And I've been very happy to be getting involved in these, and also doing this rather awkward thing of shifting through to trying to have to do this listening thing by talking to you. I mean, you know, I want to listen. You have something to share. I want to recognize you as you, and I want to be recognized as a real me. And that's the heart of where Ambigo's bringing people together comes from. I think that might be as my introduction myself. I'm going to throw it back to the wonderful Claire to kind of direct us on how to make it more interesting for you.
I think that's amazing. Thank you, both of you. Absolutely beautifully put. And I think it is so important to hear from you guys, because I know what you do, and I know that it massively impacts people's lives, and I know that Adam's got some amazing, beautiful qualities, as do you, Andy. I mean, and it is so evident when you come and experience one of your events. Like Andy said, immediately you're at ease. And I've brought lots of people that I support to the community events when we were in the community, and they were so excited by being there. It's like you say, it's an opportunity to be heard. And a lot of people, when they're not confident or they've been lost, be it in addiction or mental health or just in life, you know, often the one thing that they don't feel is that they're relevant, and that they have a voice, or that even anybody's even interested. And I think that's the beautiful thing that you guys give, is that friendly face, but that listening ear, you know, and you hear people, and you celebrate people, and then you get other champions in who can also get around those people. And isn't that what life's about?
Well, we think so. May I add to that, if I can, and say what one of the fabulous things is, it really isn't just about Adam and myself. Yes, we do a lot of listening, but the thing that really heartens us is when others listen too. And I think, being human, we want to be recognized as beings first rather than doers. And something one of your previous guests in one of your shows said, Claire, which I think is really, really important, is, you know, to be accepted as yourself, warts and all, faults and all, in amongst friends and emerging friends who also recognize that. The doing is great, sure. We get a buzz when we're successful. We get learning when we're not. And we get supported if we do that journey with people who say, yeah, it happens, it fails, it succeeds. You're okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to fail as well as, you know, achieve.
I don't know about you guys, but that's the most important thing as I've ever done, is fail. And biggest learning. I mean, had I not failed at drinking alcoholically, I wouldn't be sat here now talking to you as a CEO of a recovery charity, you know. So that was one of my greatest learning curves. Were you going to say something, Adam?
Yeah, well, because we've been watching the recovery talks, which have been incredible. The brothers you had on last week, Paul and, was it Chris?
Chris,
last
yes.
week, they were, oh my gosh, like the sincerity and the candor in what they're sharing, and the vulnerability. It's really brave for a start, and yeah, I'm sure that's going to have impacted a lot of people. But the week before, I think it was, there was a chap called Kenny, the nurse.
Yeah, he's actually just commented on the feed at the moment.
Hey,
oh, great. Hi, Kenny. Yeah, so it's Kenny. There was something you said a couple of weeks ago that really struck me, because you said what works best when trying to support somebody in recovery is when you focus on what they want to do. And you gave a little anecdote about some people in America who they were asked what they wanted, and it was like manicures and things. And it was when they were given what they wanted that they actually were able to progress with a recovery. And with our events, that's what it's all about. So people come along, and we don't even say to people, introduce yourself to the person next to you. We just bypass that, because that's always a bit awkward, isn't it? Oh, what do I say about it? And then it's like all self-conscious. Instead, what we do is we say, so, you know, you've got these two strangers now in a trio. talk about what is your goal that you've brought along to the event. What is your goal or your idea or your ambition? So immediately they're talking about what's important to themselves. And when you connect with what it is that you want to do, which is connected to the essence of who you are, then that's when the passion starts to arise. And people start to recognize you on that basis, instead of judging you based on your background, you know, your past, what's happened before, or maybe your age or your disability or your sexuality or your race and all of those kinds of things. All of those things are important because they all form who we are today. And so what we're saying is the diversity needs to be embraced, not overlooked or ignored. But what we want people to do is to feel or to hear each other and recognize each other as unique individuals. So, you know, when somebody starts talking about what it is they want to do, they forget they were shy because they're starting to talk. I mean, they're instantly getting this feedback, you know, from people. And there is a real power in doing it in person as well, because I've been increasingly thinking, because I don't like Facebook very much. You know, there are corners of Facebook and other social media platforms that are golden, like Kennedy Street's Facebook page, for instance. But there's a lot online, a lot on social media, which is insults. There's so many opinions out there, and it can just, you know, feel like you're bombarded with people's views and things. And so you can get this insecurity and feeling of judgment. But our events don't have any of that. We just create an atmosphere which is all about friendliness and supporting each other and hearing each other. And these are all strangers, you know. This isn't a group of friends. They end as friends, a lot of people, but at the start, it's just a room full of strangers. And in a couple of hours, you've got all these people making these connections, cross-pollination, as Andy likes to call it. I think that's a good way of describing it, in sharing what they know and their expertise and their contacts with each other. So everybody lifts each other up. And it's such a lovely thing to experience.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you're right. I mean, that's why I love you guys so much, because everything that you do is what really is in my heart. And it's all about a sort of like a solution, person-centered approach to taking the next tentative step into becoming the best you and achieving your gifts. And because we've all got amazing gifts, we just sometimes don't realize until you get into these types of, I've brought people along to your events and they haven't got a clue. They're nervous and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Why would you take me to this place? Well, you know what? I think it's just nice to be around people who are willing to be a little bit vulnerable and say, you know what? Actually, I just want to be a little bit more confident, you know, because it's opening your heart up, isn't it? And it's that I love, because in allowing people to just be themselves wherever they're at and open their hearts up a little bit, just to sort of give others a glimpse, it allows everybody else to do the same.
Yes, and it's very important.
Yeah, people inspire people, don't they? It's lovely. Go on, sorry.
Oh no, I was just reflecting, because you know, there's a journey that we all go on, and we tend to go in fits and starts with fallbacks, and it's like tidal waves and so on. And from the bottom of each wave, the next one looks really, really tall, but hopefully they get shallower and shallower as we move forward. And so there's a journey to go on, and at a certain point in that journey, there's the risky bit of allowing ourselves to open up and reconnect. Because we come out of being in defensive situations. We come out, hopefully, of having to be really tight up and careful and hyper vigilant of the danger around ourselves, be it perceived or real or psychological or emotional and so on. So a space where you can see people behave with that little sharing of vulnerability and the sharing of support. It's an invitation to open up, which is why, you know, we're very happy for people to bring in ambitions that are very emotional and really just about, I'd like to be less nervous, or I'd like to be more assured, right the way through to I want a global chain of Syrian vegetarian restaurants or whatever. We don't mind, really don't mind. Bring it in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And celebrate where people are, and that's a beautiful thing. I love everything that you guys do. So give us some examples, because I know you don't have to name names or anything like that, but I think just to inspire the audience, Kenny, by the way, is watching, loving the chat. And you know, he's a really good friend of Kennedy Street, and he's also one of our volunteers as well. So he's a beautiful guy. I'd actually love for him to come on the talk on Friday. I didn't actually invite him to come on the talk. I've got so many people for the talk on Friday. I'm not sure how many people we can squeeze onto StreamYard. How many people are we allowed?
Oh, well, we only take one person at a time, so that's okay. But you can have as many as you want in backstage area. But yeah, for our online events, we can fit in 6 participants. And we've already got a few, haven't we, from that you've already sent to us. So, yeah.
I'm going to speak to Kenny then, because he's got some cracking ideas. He's got one in particular that I think we really would benefit from helping him sort of realize. He's a huge talent in himself, but he's got lots of gifts that I think if he was able to share them with people, that the world would be a better place, to be honest. So I'll talk to Kenny. He's just reminded me, actually, just by commenting. So I want for you guys to give us just a few examples each, if you don't mind, that stand out. Things that have occurred off the back of your events, and you know, some of the requests or some of the things, feedback that you might have got from people that have been to one of your events, and you've helped them either realise their ambition or take that next step tentatively towards changing their ambition.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking about the first event of ours that you came to, which was one of the first ones, and I remember there was a chap there. Let's call him Steve, and he'd recently been made homeless, and you spoke to him. I don't know if you remember, but he was homeless. He said he'd been hit by a bus a few weeks earlier or something, and you know, he was physically suffering. And so anyway, he turned up, not actually meaning to be at the event. I think he was just going to use the loo, and he stopped and said, "What's going on here then?" And so I said, "Oh, we're doing this event." And he says, "Oh, well, you know, I've got my goal, which is, you know, to get myself a roof over my head at the minute." And so we had a little chat, and he was a little bit shaky. He was a little bit perspiring. And anyway, he said, "Oh, no, but I don't think it's for me." I said, "Well, no, it doesn't have to be for me. But if you've got something you want to share and you want to see if you can get help for it, then, you know, just stay and you can leave whenever you want." And so he came along and he got talking to people and he joined in the activity. And of course, he stayed for the whole event. And then at the end of it, he gave an impromptu thank you speech to everybody in the room, saying, you know, at times, you know, he actually told me beforehand that, you know, he was thinking he couldn't go on. And then by the end of the event, he was saying, you know, it's been so touching to have everybody here supporting, even though he didn't know them. And he says he's been offered some really good advice, and now he's on the waiting list for accommodation there and then. And I think you helped him a lot there, Claire, that day. So thank you for that. And it just goes to show, you know, even people that weren't even meant to be there can get something out of it, because it's just something as simple as sharing who you are, what you want to do. And there's always going to be somebody in the room who can offer something.
Very likely, yes.
Yeah. And other examples, like there was a lady called Helen, we can share her real name because she's given us the okay to talk about her journey from when she first came to one of our events at the start of last year. And she was very nervous. And when she walked through the door, she was so nervous, I thought she was going to turn around and run out again. But we sat her down, had a cup of tea, and then again, she started with the event. And she just had this idea that, you know, she wasn't necessarily particularly confident in, but she wanted to start a community cinema in Brighton and Hove for people who are vulnerable, people who are feeling isolated. And she got some really good advice from the people there. And she came again to another event a few weeks later, and again got some more support, more advice, and got connected to different people. And then, long story short, thanks to her work, we don't want to take credit for what she's managed to achieve herself, but she got that confidence to believe that this was an idea that could actually happen. And she went and got a small grant from Unlimited, who give grants to people that want to start social impact projects. And she went and started the community cinema. And until lockdown, it had run from December until March. And it was magnificent. So it was taking place at the Friends Centre in the centre of Brighton.
Yes,
and
yeah, amazing.
yeah, she's flying now. She seems transformed, and she's got a team around her, and she's now having an impact on other people's lives. But you know, as I say, it's not just about people who want to do projects for good, that want to change the community or change the world. We really do welcome selfish ambitions as well, and we don't mean that negatively at all, because you know, people want to do different things, you know, and people are at different stages in their life. So we've had several ambitions recently of people who just want to say, like, publish a book, you know, and we've been able to connect them with other people who have published books, and it's given them the confidence that they can actually go on and do that. All sorts of things. I've got a big list of, you know, things that people have gone on to do after coming to our events. I wish I had it in front of me now. Have you got any ideas?
I'd like to share one story which actually really moved me. I was very impressed by it, and it was quite early on in the time that I've been with Ambigo, and it's part of the reason why I've really stayed. One of the things we did was we set up on New Road, which of course, if you're Brighton, the Hove base, you know, and we were quite close to part of the end of the street area where certain people were, well, you'd call them drunks. I hate the phrase. That's the label that you'd naturally give them. Group of people sat there, you know, the group of people that you might kind of say, don't make eye contact, move along. We were deliberately in that area. And there was one chap of the others who kind of got interested. I think we, for the sake of for a name, we'll call him Paul. Now, he spent 3 hours with us, and certain real things really happened. I mean, he told us that he was an ex-army medic who had caught some shrapnel in his backbone. And so he had to take medical leave. And I think he'd been deployed in Bosnia or something like that. Now, let me get this right. Bosnia was a police action, so he couldn't get war pension. And he hadn't been in the service long enough to get a proper pension. So after being demobilized, he ended up living on the streets. And frankly, if I were in that much pain and that much distress, I would have been using something to ease the pain as well. And there he was, sort of just coping as best he could. He engaged with the stuff that was happening on our wall of ambitions, looking at people's wishes, ambitions, and so on. And before we knew it, he was making contributions, comments to people's ambitions that were really useful, that were relevant, that were salient. He knew his stuff. Certain things happened. We could see him change in the way that he walked, in the way that he looked at himself. He was able to think outside of that predicament that he was trapped in and working to overcome. And he was able to reconnect with that sense of being capable, of having significance, of being able to make a contribution beyond that. He was discovering a sense of worth. And we were watching other people look at him differently. It was no longer, oh, he's one of them, don't make eye contact, move along. No, he was a real person with valuable things to share. And it was a buzz for us to get to know him, to have that sort of back of the mind prejudice collapsed as he found through the vehicle we were offering ways of really being genuine and significant. And other people were seeing him for what he had as ability, as capability, rather than seeing him as a problem and something to avoid and a taboo. And those kind of changes of perception, when we see them, you know, it's a bit of a buzz. We really like that.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, he ended up staying with us for 3 hours that afternoon, and actually became one of our volunteers, because he was so keen to have other people experience it. And not only that, I mean, when you talked about the feeling of relevance, Claire, that's the other aspect of it that that we haven't focused on so much, but it's the reciprocity. You know, it's the giving and the taking. You know, it's both. So you're going there, you're coming to one of these events and sharing your goal because you want to get support for it. But actually what happens more often than not is that as soon as the event starts and you start hearing about what other people want to do, people get lost in wanting to help others.
Yes.
And that's so lovely. And they often forget about their own thing that they came for, because they get such a buzz about feeling that sense of purpose, feeling that relevance, because they've got some knowledge, they've got some expertise, or they've got some contacts that might be able to help other people. And naturally, you know, we're social creatures. there's a reason it feels good to help others, and people want to keep on feeling good. So it's such a buzz to be able to help other people, and that's what he did. The very first person that came along on that particular day of that event said that they wanted to learn how to sew bed quilts, and he came along and looked at it and said, "Oh, well, she needs to go to the church on St James's Street in Kemp Town, because they do a sewing class every Monday." Boom, just like that. And then he himself put down that he wanted to find somebody to look after his pets, because he wanted to go to job interviews and things, try and get a job, and other things. And somebody came along and said, yes, wrote down a post-it note saying, I can help look after your pet, So it's all reciprocal, There's so many opportunities if you just get it out there into the universe, what it is you want to do, and it can be anything. Just get it out there. It doesn't matter if you've never vocalized it before, and it doesn't matter if you think it's probably a daft idea and you think other people won't think it's relevant or important or whatever, or they might think it's a daft idea. It doesn't matter. What can you lose? Just get it out there, and you'll find that people, more often than not, come out of the woodwork to want to support you. So that's what we try to provide a platform for. And if you're part of the Kennedy Street family and you're thinking, yeah, well, there is something that I might want to do, or, get in touch with us or Claire, and then we'll get you on board for our event on Friday.
Yeah.
I'd like to add something, if I may, because if you've grown up, like some of us have, being told that you're not able, or you've got some reason for having some sort of self-image that is slightly shut down, or you're unlucky enough to have had experiences of trauma or abuse or whatever, that step to sharing is frankly dangerous. It's scary. I know. It's sort of, am I going to be somehow abused, undermined, diminished, hurt again in that? So one of the things that's really lovely about the Ambigo space, if you've made the risk, if you've taken the risk of coming in, is seeing other people being nice to strangers. If they can be civil, amiable, friendly, and then nice, and actually make connections with complete strangers, maybe it's a safe place for you. Maybe it's somewhere that you too might be able to get that. Bring friends, bring safety with you for sure. We love that. And discover new people. And what we're finding is complete strangers in the main, in the right sort of safe space where our expectation is an expectation of reciprocity, as Adam has said. It really does seem to produce a lot of friendships. And I'd love to share that with you. I'd love you to be able to experience that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another great similarity between what you do and what we do. When we integrate people into a recovery process in the community, into our extended family groups, which is different fellowships and different support structures, they become part of, and it's like you say, it's an extended family, isn't it? It's a safe family, and it's all that. What did you call it? I can't. When you say it,
Giving and receiving.
Yeah, but what do you call it again?
Reciprocity.
Wow.
Oh, two different pronunciations.
I might have to practice that one. That's how recovery works. So what happens with recovery is it's a simple act of kindness, an act of, we call it an act of love, where somebody actually spends time with you unconditionally, without any reward, without any expectation even from you, and they just stay with you and listen to you and encourage you and support you whilst you're finding yourself, and it's those acts of kindness that actually really impact people, and they go, wow, it's like what you call a spiritual experience. It's an experience. It's not a religious experience, but it's one that actually really warms your heart. It impacts you here, doesn't it? Where you go, oh wow, I can't believe. I remember people being kind to me at the beginning of my journey. Really kind with their time. And I first of all, I didn't believe them.
Yeah.
What's in this for them? There's got to be some payoff. There's a level of mistrust. But you know what? Every time I went back, they was still there and they were still being kind. And it was just that keep giving, keep being of service, we call it, learning to be of service, and it does, like you said, Adam, it gets you out of your own head. When you're actually supporting somebody else to achieve their greatest potential, you forget about your pile of whatever it is that you've left behind you. And you think, rather insignificant if I'm here and you're helping you. So it is beautiful. I absolutely love what you're doing, and the lives that are being impacted. And I think it's really been demonstrated more as well during the lockdown. I think there's been some terrible, terrible situations, and lives have been destroyed, and people's lives have been lost. But you know something. You see, I don't know about you. You can tell me what your experience has been. But for me, what this whole pandemic has taught me is how many amazing people there are in the world, and those are the people I look to. I don't actually watch the news. I have to watch it because Kevin's obsessed with it, but I don't watch it much because it makes me really anxious, and it's so dramatic and chaotic. And it's all about the problem. And that does not do my mental health any good at all. So I choose not to engage. And it's the same with life. I choose to engage with people who want to make a difference in the world, who have something that's precious to them that they want to give away. And those are the people I want to knock about with. And this whole pandemic has shown me that actually there are some amazing people. Yeah. Not just in the recovering community, there's a few in there, but there's loads of people like you guys out there doing this, making a difference, showing other people, actually, you know what, you can make a difference too. Have you experienced that, John? What has your experience been of the pandemic? What's your take on the whole matter?
Yeah, well, it's been really different for us, of course, because normally doing physical events and then suddenly having to go online. But that transition of going online, it's not stopped people wanting to come out and help. People are still there. People are still wanting to be supportive. Because, like I said, we're social creatures and we're supposed to help each other. And I believe that if there is a default human setting, a natural human way of being, then it is to be kind, because back in primal days, we needed to make those positive connections because we needed each other, in our tribes. So sometimes people don't believe that. And so we've had people come to events in the past where they've been dragged along because their partner wanted to go. And we've said, are you joining in? No, I'm just here because he's here or she's here,
Yeah.
And we say, oh, but, have you got something you want to do? Well, kind of, but no, nobody will be able to help me. We often get that, oh, nobody will be able to help me with my thing. And of course they always do, people are always wanting to be supportive and they're astonished, I just remember there was this chap who wanted to start his own cafe or restaurant. And he was there just because his partner was there, and just had this resolute belief that other people wouldn't want to help him. And who knows, I don't know his backstory, but that's not the important thing. That's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on what he wants to do and supporting him to do it. But yeah, he was astonished and couldn't believe that he'd actually got something out of the event that he was being dragged along to in the first place. But yeah, I don't know if you've got anything to add, Andy, about that transition into the online.
It is for me, it's a slightly uncomfortable transition. Sorry, I was just thinking, because of what you were saying, Claire, as with recovery and as with good life, who do you want to surround yourself with? And we want to surround ourselves with people who we can help, who will help us, who will see us as us, who we can see as really them, rather than these kind of symbols and so on. During our early start of moving from doing real live events where we had a subtlety of stuff going on, people could read other people's ambitions at their own speed. They could build a relationship with a person through their ambition calling card before they've met the person at that slower pace that is right for them, or that fast pace that is right for them. for me, moving into this sort of domain where we're broadcasting at you. I'm talking at you. I'm trying to be entertaining while I do so, as well as trying to do something, fairly worthwhile. But it's at my pace, not yours. So that's been an uncomfortable switch over, which we've been attempting to try and accommodate by doing what you're doing, Claire, by putting these shows out live and also making them available beyond, so you can run through. And there's a little device on the settings, so you could, if you're on YouTube, you can actually run this through at twice speed if you want to. And I can talk incredibly quickly, or if you actually want to or if you want to slow it down and so on. It's a step towards the beautiful interaction that we have by being in the same physical space as somebody, by standing within 2 feet or 2 meters or whatever. A communication starts beyond the sheet of paper and what we say to you. And I miss that. That said, it hasn't stopped people coming through to us. I do wonder about those who don't communicate as capably through this method. So I wonder about that, and I'd love lockdown to end and for us to be able to do that again. To be honest with you, it's better than nothing, is what I'm saying, I suppose.
Yeah, and I get you. I do hear you. It's it can be very challenging for some people. Some of the people that I've been supporting, a lot of them don't have technology. They don't have computers. They don't have iPhones. They can't connect via Zoom. They don't have a mobile, some of them. So I do know that it does throw up its obstacles. And we've done mass collections actually of technology, and just tapped into the resources that are out there, and asked people, look, have you got an old phone that you don't want? Because we've got people, that was one of our ambitions, was at the beginning of the lockdown, was we've got 30 people who are in the aging population who don't have smartphones. They've got Nokia, the old-fashioned Nokia ones.
Yes.
I love my old Nokia, but they didn't have smartphones, so they couldn't engage in online recovery meetings because they didn't have the technology. And something? People are good people. And that's the beautiful thing. I'm a great believer in, if you don't ask for help, people don't know that you need help. And for me, that leap of faith was the very first step that I took, which was opening my mouth to say to somebody, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I haven't got a clue where to start. I know that I've got a problem, but I've been told that, I'll never get better. And people just said, you know what? That's not true. Of course you can get better, and I'm going to introduce you to loads of other people, and you're going to listen to their stories, and they're going to show you how they got better. So they don't tell you how to get better, they just show you. They lead the way, and that's what you guys are doing. You're leading the way, you're helping other people connect. It's amazing. And I really want to encourage people to continue. We will keep sharing this on our social media. And I want to encourage people to come and support our chat on Friday, because we have got some amazing guys. That the whole purpose of what we do at Kennedy Street is, it's not just about helping people get sober. Sobriety is but a part of recovery. It's a tiny part as well. People don't realise, but stopping drinking and drug taking is actually the easy part, or stopping gambling, or stopping the addictive behaviour is just but a part of it. And initially it feels like a big part, but actually it's a small part. Once you've got into sobriety, it's then what? So how can I achieve my greatest potential? And I think your platform is a great opportunity for that, as well as, I've been at your events and somebody's put on the ambition board, I just want to stop drinking. And it just so happened I was stood next to her. Yeah. I'm like, hey, fabulous. Yeah. So it's amazing how it works, isn't it? And that guy that you were talking about earlier, the homeless guy that walked into the event by accident, he was such a lovely man, And like you, I just accept people for where they're at. For me, it doesn't matter where they're at. I just get alongside them. And if it's something that if there's somebody I know or somebody I can connect them to that will help ease the transition to take the next step, then that's what my job is. And that day at that event, it just so happened I'd been speaking to a homeless link worker earlier that day, and he was saying, oh, I've got this new mobile phone and I can reach people. You can ring me at 10 o'clock at night if you find a homeless person. And I was like, it was magical.
Brilliant.
Do you remember I got on the phone to him? I don't remember, it's a few years back now. I got on the phone to him. I was like, hey, guess what? Because that guy was really poorly, the homeless guy. Do you remember? He'd come out of hospital and he couldn't actually walk on his leg. It really, really was in a lot of pain. And I think he got put in emergency accommodation that night because the homeless link guy came to the event too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No. Brilliant.
Within an hour of picking up the phone, he went, right, it just so happens I was just going to get the bus home, but I'll come to the Bright Helm Centre instead. And he turned up. So there you go. It's amazing what can happen.
Yeah. And where else do you get like a room of people where you've got somebody who's been living on the street, and then you've got somebody who's probably, a chief executive of a big business, it helps bring these people together from all these different diverse backgrounds to realize we've got more in common than we perhaps thought. And, it encourages us to reach out, to continue to ask for help if we feel that we need it, with any kind of aspect of life.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, sorry, Andy, go on. What were you going to say?
Sure. I was just there's a point that both of you made that I think that strikes me as pretty profound, and in the main, it's my impression that most people are very happy to help, and frankly, we're rubbish at asking. As a society, we're pretty rubbish at knowing how to ask for help, which begs the question: how can we make it safe? And build an expectation that it's okay to honestly ask for help, to actually do so. And that's part of the thinking that I was seeing in what Adam was putting together. How do we make it safe and okay and not overly vulnerable? Do I have to have the spotlight? Come on, too much focus to safely say, I could do with some help in a way that people won't find as overly needy or receive as charity, to receive it as a genuine exchange. Breaking the taboo about being able to say to someone, I could do with a little help, or yes, can you help me with this, please? Most people will say yes.
Yeah, most people do. And like you said, both of you pointed out, we all have an abundance of gifts within us. Often we don't actually know that they're gifts. And the last thing I thought that I would be sort of doing when I started my journey was helping other people, supporting other people to tentatively take those steps towards their greatest potential. If you'd have told me that 22 years ago, I'd have gone, you're absolutely crazy, But the most liberating thing was asking for help. And do you know what? Still to this day, I struggle with asking for help. I make myself do it because, and I do it on behalf of other people. And that somehow allows me to then go, do you know what? Actually, I was asking for mobile phone help, but do you know what? I could do with some help myself. I'm gonna ask for help myself. And it's so freeing. It's so liberating. And it does allow other people into your life. And that's what we're here for, isn't it? To connect, to help one another, to help one another move forward. And that's what I was saying about this whole lockdown. I think that's what's emerged. I never knew my neighbours on my street before lockdown. I knew Francesca next door because she always passes Italian food over the fence to me. She's
brilliant.
But I didn't know anybody else. I do now. We all help one another.
Well, that's one of the good things to come out of lockdown, isn't it? But you were saying like people don't know about the gifts. Another thing that people don't know sometimes is actually what it is they want to do. And I'm wary that, actually having talked for all this time about achieving your goals and ambitions, there'll probably be somebody, and it might be you right now, sitting there going, I don't have a blooming clue what my goal or ambition is. And that's perfectly fine as well, you know? So when we have our events, there are sometimes people that come along and say, my goal is to work out what my goal is. And they think, like, again, they're one of those people that, oh, no one's going to be able to help me. They're normally the people that get the most help. And the reason is because everybody's been there. Yes. Everybody's been in that situation and going, well, what do I do now? What do I do with my life? Which direction am I going in, you know? So that's equally valid as well, to say the help I need is to work out what I want to do. And there's always people that can offer you support in that area. And often it comes down to just asking yourself or getting someone else to ask you some questions, you know. What do you love the most? What makes you angry? That's a really good one. What makes you angry? You know, maybe there's something in that might help you work out what it is you want to do. And the question that helped me realize that I wanted to start Ambigo was, when was the last moment you felt alive? And I answered that, and I thought, well, that's not going to lead to anything. It was when I gave somebody a present. But it was a present that I put some thought into. And so when that person asked me, well, what's underneath that answer? You know, what's underneath that? What's underneath that? What's underneath that? They kept on asking that, what's underneath it? I realized I wanted to help other people feel valued and to value themselves. So, and that's what got the ball rolling, which eventually turned into Ambigo. So there are lots of different ways to get to that point, but I just wanted to, you know, make sure that if people are watching this going, well, it's all well and good achieving your ambitions, but if you don't have any, then I'm stuck, you know. But everyone's been there, and you've got the support out there as well. Just ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to encourage that, you know, people watching this, if we play it back later and share it later, share it amongst your friends, share it amongst your family. You might have family members who you know, feel like they could do with some support in some way, shape or form. I think the more we can encourage this sort of platform where people are able to support one another in any way, shape or form, I think it needs to be celebrated, it needs to be shared, it needs to be talked about. That's the only way we're going to move forward, especially out of this whole massive impact that oh, there you go. Hi.
That's just my son.
You love it when it's live. It's like my daughter giving the tea. It's fabulous. But yeah, so I really want to encourage people to come on Friday. Do we start at 6:30 on Friday, Adam?
Yep.
Correct, yes.
So we start at 6:30. I want to encourage people to come along, have a listen to some of the guys with their ideas. Here we go. We've got a few questions before we go. Oh, here we go. Let me see what this turning point for me was.
Hi, Ryan.
Oh, Ryan. Do you know Ryan?
No, I'm just friendly.
Oh, hi, Ryan. I'm friendly too. The turning point for me was a creative writing and meditation. 420 days off booze now. It is possible. Woo-hoo! It is possible. It really, really is possible. Everything's possible when you've got friends. Everything's possible when you've got people who care. And I want to encourage people to come on Friday, share this talk that we're doing now. If you've got any questions for Adam or Andy or myself, put them on the messages, and we will keep looking back. We go over our talks all the time. We reshare them and share them. So, you know, please don't hesitate to contact us if you've got any questions about your ambitions, or if you've got any questions about recovery, you need any type of support. Between the three of us, we know people. So, yeah, thank you so much to both of you for coming and chatting. I love you both dearly. I don't see enough of you. You're the kind of people that I love to knock about with. I think when I've sat next to Adam at an event when we went to some of the upstream events, I always felt like I'd just had a big cuddle off somebody. And Adam probably given me a big cuddle, but you know when you feel that, like that comfy, that lovely feeling that you get from being around people that are kind. So keep being kind, chaps. Love you to bits, and thank you so much for coming on our Kennedy Street Live event.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure and an honour. So thank you.
Thank you.
Privilege. Yeah, really admire what you do.
Thank you. Before I go, I need to say one thing. Andy, you need to do a meditation podcast of some variety.
Oh, okay.
He's available for work, you know. Voice work.
You have got such a beautiful voice, and I think if you did meditations, you know, you've got a perfect voice. I listen to meditations every day, you see, and you've got a calming voice. It's hypnotic. I could quite happily listen to you. Well, I don't mean bob off in an awful way.
No.
Your voice makes me feel very relaxed.
I would be happy to do so.
Oh.
It is a quiet ambition of mine to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's make it happen, Adam. Let's get my ambition activated. Lovely to see you both, and I will see you on Friday.
Yeah.
All right, lots of love.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.